All right, welcome again, and thanks for joining the Global Webinar Day here at Infosim. Our topic today is StableNet, a decade in the UK market. My name is Dietmar Kneidl. I am Director of Sales Europe with Infosim, and I will be your moderator for this event today. And joining us from their headquarter office in Stone, Staffordshire, United Kingdom, is Phil Swainson, Head of Technical Services with Kedron UK, our long-term partner in the UK market. So, good afternoon to you, Phil. Very warm welcome to the webinar.
Afternoon, Dietmar. Thank you very much for having us.
Well, Phil, seriously, it's a decade that our two companies have been working together. I'm not sure how that happened, but I'm sure neither you nor me aged a single day.
Well, have you seen the photos?
Yeah, well, that's you can't trust the photos.
Here's one I took earlier, like 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's one we took in the 60s. All right. Well, before I hand over to Phil for even more fun, just a couple of things that I wanted our audience to know. As usual, you're all muted when joining our audience, just to keep down background noise. So if you have questions, you need to type them in the chat or in the questions window of that GoToWebinar application. And we're going to be taking care of your questions either directly in the chat. Phil's going to see those questions as well. So if he thinks it's a good question to answer right now, he'll react to it. If not, we'll just collect them and do them in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And as usually, we are recording the event, so you're going to get a quick email tomorrow with a link to that recording. Well, that's it. Phil, are you ready?
I'm ready, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to do this a little bit different because Phil had one of those wonderful Macintoshes that can't present PowerPoint files done on another machine in the right way. So I'm going to click for you. So I'm just going to push you into the agenda right now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, a Mac that seems to destroy PowerPoint, but there we go. So here's our agenda. We're going to take you through these 5 points this afternoon, revolving around obviously StableNet being in the UK for 10 years in partnership with ourselves. So a little bit of evolution of StableNet in the UK market, a summary of success in the UK, where we found success in the marketplace with various customers. We'll take a look at an example success story, some ways that partners can add value, and where we intend to go next. So that's what we're going to take a little look at. So off into the evolution of StableNet in the UK market. But before we actually delve into that in detail, I thought it would be useful just to give you a very brief overview of what Kedron UK do in the UK, just to give you some relevant context to, one, why we partnered with Infosim, and also how StableNet became part of our portfolio into our customer space. So as you can see on the slide here, at the very highest level, we work with our clients to just help them to discover, measure, and visualize their infrastructure and applications, and then how they're then able to work together to deliver business application and IT services. So that's what we do. That's the area we get involved in. And on our next slide, we just have a sample subset of some of our customers, just showing the various verticals that we work in, predominantly in education and government, enterprise and service providers. If we've got any of our attendees this afternoon that are outside the UK, some of those logos might not be familiar to you, but they all tend to have certain things in common, which we'll go on to in a little moment. So what we tend to do is to provide a portfolio of complementing products from various technical partners, to which we add services and support. And of course, one of the most important partnerships being with Infosim. So we're able to then provide what our customers need in these various areas that they face challenges for. So on our next slide, we see how the majority of our customers break down into a specific customer profile that we have found over the sort of 15 odd years of working with some of our clients. So they often have the similar things in common. Starting on the left hand side there, you see that they have large and or complex infrastructures that run mission critical services, with the majority having global presence from the UK in most cases, from UK data centers, but with devices scattered globally. They have similar requirements as well. So oftentimes we'll see that they have multiple tools, and that often gets referred to as the zoo of tools. And that might be because they're using point tools, or just historically one tool has been brought in for a particular requirement, and now they need to consolidate that profile of tools that they have. Maybe they've got multi-vendor requirements, and that often is the case as well, that our customers have not specified one specific vendor, so cross-vendor gaps create them problems. And then, of course, as a lot of customers are now starting to look into some kind of automation where those are possible, they want to grasp them, they want to take advantage of them to simplify operations where possible. So that's the kind of customer profile that we find that we work with best here in the UK. So again, just before our clients were introduced to StableNet, our next slide just helps to break down the three camps that our customers tend to find themselves in before StableNet comes into the picture. So the first one is they've invested heavily in one of the big four platforms. The second area is, as we've mentioned, due to the various different vendors in the environment, they may have a mixture of these point solutions. Maybe they've gone with their switch vendor or router vendor with a solution for that. And the same is true of their server estate. They've often got tools which are specific to server vendors. And then the final camp there is those that have tried to make an SME tool work in a much larger environment, but are combating issues with scalability and so on. Or maybe they've even deployed some open source tools and they're struggling with the R&D of those products. Now, of course, all these approaches have their places, but they have their limitations as well. And whilst I'm not here to knock the competition, our customers have often found that these particular areas that they find themselves in have presented them with a challenge, particularly in the area of scalability, flexibility, or maybe just the depth of knowledge that they need isn't available in these tool sets that they currently have. Alternatively, it might just be too much hard work to get to the place that they want to get to. So when we introduce StableNet, our next slide just indicates to anybody that's worked with StableNet already, you'll know very well with your experience that StableNet has four key disciplines. That's discovery, performance, fault, and configuration management. And all of that through a single user-friendly interface. And so we introduce this to our customers, and as you see from the previous profile, that often very much fits what they're trying to achieve with a single product without being vendor specific. And that's brought about, as we look at the next slide, with regards to the StableNet architecture. Now, the architecture of StableNet allows the solution to scale to our customers' requirements. In the instrumentation layer, you see there agent 1 through to agent N. So by just simply scaling out the number of agents that are doing the measurement and management of devices and metric gathering in the estate, so it scales the capability of StableNet itself. Using industry standard technologies means that crossing the vendor gap and becoming truly vendor agnostic is a capability of StableNet. And then the integration through the north and southbound interfaces means that the solution can fit with existing tools and or replace certain elements as well. And standardizing on databases that are known in the industry already, that provides ongoing support, resilience, and virtual infinite scaling of data collection and storage, as well as being able to flexibly access the solution through the rich client, web client, or mobile app, should I say. So the architecture of StableNet just helps it to fit our customers' requirements, and has been successful in the way that it's done that. So that just gives you a little bit of a background into how how we brought, or why we brought StableNet into our customer market in the UK. Just want to move on to the next point in our agenda now, which was just a summary of the success that that's really had in our customer base. So we're just going to look at how the messaging that we proposed was received by the majority of our customers. So on the next slide, we see here that the process that we've gone through, we're very much interested in what the customer's requirements are. We take a close look at that. And because right from the outset, we were impressed with the software, then we felt that our clients would be too. So after having gathered the customer's requirements, we then work with a representative pilot system, or a POC, and that enables our customers to literally see what the product is capable of, moving away a little bit from the apathy of vendors talking about how great their software is on a PowerPoint. And ironically, we're using PowerPoint today, though I can't on my Mac. But
sorry, that was just too good not to laugh.
Thanks, mate. So our customers then could see it for themselves, see it working in their own environments, and then teaching the customer to drive the knowledge transfer, allowing them to see how easy it is for them to work with StableNet, and then the experience around that being enhanced by the support that we could provide them in doing so. So it's a bit of a consultative process, a building of the pilot, and enabling the customer to actually get the best out of the product. And because of that, as we look onto our next slide, we've then seen that in these industry verticals, we've had success with multiple customers in each of these industries now taking up StableNet as their means of managing their specific environments. And in summary, the next slide just breaks that down into a little bit of context for us, that throughout the UK now, over the last 10 years, that means that from the UK, our customers are managing devices in over 62 different countries, with every major UK high street having some element of the network infrastructure managed by StableNet. And that's supported by ourselves now with a 24/7 operation for most of our customers. So we've seen a great deal of success, and that's been good for us and for our customers alike. So just wanted to concentrate next then on a specific example. We've chosen this one because of the complexity of the customer's requirements up front when we went into our first phase of gathering the customer's issues and challenges to see how we might be able to address them with StableNet. So here I'd like to introduce to you the company Barrett Developments PLC. For those of you in the UK, of course, you'll know Barrett's, very well-known building company, been building residential property since 1958, and they are recognised as the highest quality national house builder, with employing over 6,000 people. And they have 25 house building divisions. So a well-known company with some specific issues that we had to address. And the next slide just helps us to see what their key requirements were when we first engaged with them. Of course, common to a lot of people, fault configuration, performance management. You can see that it fits StableNet very, very nicely. They were looking for a scalable solution for their business network and data centers. The third element here was really where the challenge started, and that is that they wanted to have the same platform to manage their building site life cycle and activation, and we'll discuss that in a bit more detail in a moment. They wanted to also achieve a reduction in mean time to resolution via accurate CMDB and root cause, and they also wanted reporting which was business relevant rather than just sort of the nuts and bolts of the network. They wanted to be able to report to directors and C-level so that they could find out how the business was performing in this particular area. And so we set about to producing a POC and a pilot so we could actually prove this to them. So just to explain a little bit more in depth about the challenge around their building site life cycle, our next slide just helps us to try and visualize this. Just to try and explain the issue, most other industries unless they're going through a period of growth or decline, well, they have a fairly static estate, especially when compared to Barrett's, who may have in the region of 700 plus building sites at all various stages of development throughout the UK. Now, most building sites will start, obviously, as a greenfield or brownfield location, which means there's no water supply, there's no electric supply, there's no telephone lines or internet connectivity. And as the builders move on to the site, they need access to drawings, plans, ordering processes for the company and so on, all without mains power and a provision of internet access. So electrical generators are provided, which provide power to a 3G or 4G router, and allowing the builders then to get access to the various services that Barrett then provide. Eventually, of course, electricity is installed, and so is perhaps internet capability. So the router now becomes an ADSL router with 3G backup capability. And then as the show home and sales get off the ground, then they also require connectivity. So a second router goes in for them. And then as the building phase is completed, the building router is removed. And then as the sales move out and that process is completed, the sales router is removed. So there's a complete life cycle around our IT infrastructure. And as I say, at various points around those 700 plus sites, it's quite something to manage. So we moved in with StableNet as part of this POC, and we built in, using StableNet's automation and discovery, we built them a portal, which if we just move on one point with the slide, thank you. So at this particular level, we allowed, once the service provider had provided Barrett's with an IP address of the router that they were going to deploy to site, it would be staged in the portal. At this point, StableNet would discover the device, place it into the inventory and in the correct place in their staged tree structure, but without any monitors. So there was no alarms because this device isn't live yet. Then there was a daily report that StableNet sends out, and as soon as one of these devices comes live, it's connected via 3G or 4G, it appears on this report and allows them then to move the device, stage the device into the next level, which was to properly discover the device, get all of its information, and start measuring the relevant details into the measurement tree itself. Now, that could have been done automatically, but Barrett did want to actually have some human intervention to actually physically move it from one stage to the next. So we just allowed that as a checkbox exercise in the portal. Then, of course, ADSL is installed. StableNet automatically picks up that the ADSL interfaces have come up, adds those measurements for those interfaces, and adds a very specific ADSL measurement as well, and also tags the device as having received ADSL delivery, so that there can be a business report that goes out to let the business know that ADSL has actually been delivered to the site as well, so that they can now start paying for that service. Of course, then obviously, when the show home comes available, a new router goes in, that second router is also picked up, added to the tree structure, starts measuring, etc., and allows them to, any issues with the device, to be alerted in the normal way. And then finally, the final part of the process was the decommissioning of the site. So once the site, the build area is completed, then they would go into the portal, they would tag the device for deletion, and StableNet would then clean up its own inventory and delete the devices from the relevant trees, as those devices were no longer actually available on site. And then the next slide just shows the feedback that we got having built that. It's now been in production for well over 18 months now, as far as I can recall. That's enabled them to be able to reduce their mean time to resolution. So rather than firefighting because they think that there should be an ADSL circuit to site and there isn't one, they haven't got to go routing through orders, etc. Has it arrived? Yes, it has, definitely. There's a report to say so. Fault finding has been a lot easier, and they've been able to report this information to the business very quickly, and obviously satisfied their requirements. So that's been a nice success story for us and for the customer, getting over some of their particular issues with StableNet. So that concludes that section for us. We just wanted to spend a little bit of time now just talking about how the different types of value can be added by an expert partner such as ourselves in connection with our customers, and hopefully what extra value we add over the top of the product itself and the services from Infosim. The next slide just talks about the three main phases that we go through when we talk to or when we do a deployment for our customers. The first is the planning stage, then the provide and the assure. These are the names that we've given to them, just at a very high level. The next slide takes us into the planning phase, just to explain what we do at this particular phase with the client. We've mentioned about capturing their requirements. Most of that, of course, is done through the proof of concept delivery. But at the end of the proof of concept, we will then present back. So we set a series of targets during the POC, and we want to check that we have achieved what we set out to do. And then we can then help and assist with business case development, etc., to try and get this then taken forward into a purchase by our customer. So that completes the planning stage, and then we move hopefully into the provide stage, where we produce a technical specification, which is mutually agreed, statements of work documents, project plans. All of our deliveries are project managed by a project manager and delivered by certified experienced experts. And then we do a handover training session with our client, depending on the level of service they want in the assure part, which is the next slide, because we offer various levels of support and professional services. So some of our customers just want 24/7 or 9 to 5 support. Some want remote services. In some cases, we completely run the system for our customers. We look after the hardware, the software, the operating systems. We even do all the adds, moves, and changes, and effectively just leave the customer to consume the alerts and the reports. We also can do scheduled system health checks and ongoing training, of course, to assist new members of staff and enable continuous improvement throughout the customer's environment. So those are just some of the services that, as a partner, we add over and above the product itself, and that our customers have found very useful to various degrees. So that just brings us to where we're going next, really. And our next slide just really highlights the three main areas or three topics that we're keenly interested in moving forward with. A number of our clients are now starting to talk about service visualization being quite key to them. Of course, StableNet has got capabilities to collect data from all of the vitally managed objects within your environment. And even when you don't own the data, StableNet is able to bring in various sets of metrics via APIs. So gathering all of that information together enables our customers to look at unifying service visualization alongside their existing infrastructure and services. Now, there's been in latest release, there's been some enhancements in this area, so we're excited again to talk to our clients further about the opportunities they have in these areas. Another buzzword is IoT management. So again, we're also talking to our clients more and more about their plans for that and how they look at managing those things alongside, again, their traditional network components and getting single views on how all this integrates together. And again, StableNet can already deliver on this today, so it's something that we can show and prove during those pilots. And then finally, we're going to have further focus speaking with service providers who, of course, manage other customers' networks. And we have a number of these already as customers where they use StableNet to manage their customers' networks. And again, we're looking to talk to them as they're all starting to get excited about IoT and SDN. And as they continue to grow, looking to use StableNet as a platform that's already ready for multi-vendor challenges that they face today. And again, once again, we're looking forward to just letting the software do the talking and let it prove itself as it goes into these environments. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. So just like to hand back to Dietmar if we've got any questions.
We have. I could listen to you all day, Phil. You know that. This is very, very interesting. I didn't know all the details about Barrett's, to be honest. You never told me. Well, I've learned something.
We must talk more often.
We need to talk more often. Yeah, we need to tell our bosses that we need to talk more often. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that.
I'm sure.
All right. Well, as usual, if you're interested in the slides we've been using for the webinar, feel free to download that from the file from the handout section right now. And we have, in fact, two questions that I think are very interesting. I think one of the questions is coming from one of your customers that you have sneaked into this webinar. And they want to know if let me just read that. Oh, they don't have configuration management as part of their StableNet installation yet, and they are interested in how they can obtain that, who they should contact. Well, they should probably contact me, then I get the provision.
Well, I think we've got some details on screen there of our contact details. If you're still in contact with your account manager, and hopefully you are, then be in touch with them. But we're happy to talk to you about that. With regards to StableNet scalability and architecture, we mentioned that it can scale for capacity. Of course, it can also scale for functionality, and the functionality is done basically with a license, so there's no need to install extra software. So in this case, it's just an uplift on your license. A new license is provided, and then install that, and the capabilities are there for you. But we're more than happy to talk to you. If you haven't got an account manager contact, then feel free to ring the number there and ask for myself, Phil Swainson, and we'll take you through the process.
Couldn't have said it any better. And the other question, I think, is originated from another partner, one of our partners from a different country that is attending the webinar, and he would like to know if they can do similar things in their country and kind of adopt Kedron's best practices in order to do that.
I don't see any reason why not, certainly, and we're more than happy to discuss the experiences that we've had.
Yeah, I think that was the underlying question, if you're willing to help them.
Yeah. More than happy, no problem at all.
Yeah, Phil works for money, so that no problem. He's going to do that. All right. Well, thank you very much. There's a few more questions, but since we're already scratching our time limit, I prefer to answer those directly via email or call right after this session. As usual, a little overview of the additional resources we offer on our website. But I think you probably know, or most of you know, the URLs already. So thank you very much again, Phil, for the session. Thanks everyone for joining us today. As I've mentioned during my introduction, we have a recording of this webinar. Gonna send the link out tomorrow via email. And before we close this session, just two more dates that I would like to put in the back of your head. The next Global Webinar Day is on March 22nd. We don't have a fixed topic for that one yet, but just mark the calendars, March 22nd. And in around about 4 weeks, February 22nd, that is, I think, another Thursday, if memory serves me right, we will do something different. We're going to do an open mic StableNet demonstration. So if you are on our mailing list, you will receive information and invite to that event as well. In case you're not, a quick email to newsletter@Infosim.net or visiting our website is going to help you with that. Phil, any glorious last words from the UK?
Not from me, no epiphanies. Thank you very much. Just like to say thank you for everybody for attending, and speak again soon.
All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Bye for now.